3, 2, 1. Yeah, so Tsitsipas, he was a great example of that as well. So one of my favorite moments of the 2018 season was when Tsitsipas went to Canada, didn't have a ton of expectations. Then he goes ahead and reels off 4 upsets in a row of top 10 players. He's the youngest player to have ever done that in ATP World Tour history. So the 4 players he knocked off were Thiem, ranked number 8 at the time, Djokovic, ranked number 10 at the time, Alexander Zverev, ranked 3 at the time, and then Anderson in the semifinals, ranked number 4 at the time. Had he beaten Nadal, who's number 1 at the time, I think we might have all lost our minds that the young guns were officially back. But Nadal brought him back down to earth, actually beat him on his birthday. A little bit sad there, but still, it just goes to show that if these young guns get hot and they have the game like a Tsitsipas does, they can reel off 4 wins in a row. And I think Tsitsipas, we always talk about him, but he's such a great talent as well because he has won titles on the hard court, on clay. He's made it far on pretty much all the surfaces. Grass, he's made it to the 4th round at Wimbledon. So I think he could be one of those all-court players that he could contend at pretty much all the majors as long as there's openings. And then just to give you some perspective, so out of the 9 Masters 1000s last year, young guns only won 2 of them, but they were finalists in 5 of them. So only Monte Carlo, Cincinnati, and Indian Wells did not feature a young gun in the final. So this is to your point, Matt, that we are in a new era, and 2019 is where they finally break through. They've been doing it in the Masters 1000s, so why can't they finally just do it on the slams and best of 5? So, and Zverev was the one that won most of those, but still, they were finalists in 5 of them. That's pretty impressive.
It'll be interesting to see. Sorry, just on your point, and I guess if you say amateur, it's your direction. You mentioned Tsitsipas if he gets hot. And I think that's the biggest problem with these young guys. And we look at the big 4 and we just think consistency, right? I mean, they are expected to go deep. And these kids, we expect them to have to play out of their minds in order to compete and in order to go deep into these tournaments. When they're playing well, they're playing really well. And they're going to go far. But and I think part of it, most of it is probably just youth, right? And experience of youth, but consistency is always a big problem when you're younger like that. And so I think if anybody can get consistent, then they'll be a threat. They all have the talent. They all have the skills to do what the big 4 have done. They're just not consistent. And so I think, towards your points, if they're not consistent, they're not going to do it.
Right. And it's hard because you have to be consistent on both sides of the ball. You have to maintain that serve, protect your serve. Even when you have guys like Nadal and Djokovic returning it, right? You have to protect the serve, go big, not be conservative and wait for them to miss because, quite honestly, the big 4 don't miss that much, right? If you're not putting them under pressure, if you're just giving them easy balls in the middle. And then to your point as well, they have to be big on the return. They have to take chances to break these guys. Federer's not just going to give you break points. You know, Djokovic, his serve, he's not just going to give you those opportunities. You have to create opportunities. And that means taking those second serves, not just hitting them back willy-nilly, but going for something, coming to the net. Tsitsipas is, again, great game because he comes to the net. Zverev's been coming to the net more. They got to be aggressive. If they're not going to be aggressive, playing conservative, we've seen what that does. They're not going to beat these guys. They might make a final, but they're not beating the top guys. They need strokes. They need to create opportunities, like you said. So this is a big one as well that I didn't really realize until doing research for this. So 2018 saw zero meetings between members of the big 4. Now, I know Murray's injured, but still, we had 0 Federer-Djokovic finals, 0 Djokovic-Nadal finals, which I think is even more crazy because Nadal had such a good year. He led the ATP World Tour in ELO. He's actually at his career ELO rating, and Djokovic regained world number 1. So somehow they just barely miss each other, right? Nadal played a little bit better the first half of the year, Djokovic better the second half. But
and they did meet in the semis, didn't they?
You're right. They met in the semis, but they did not meet. Sorry, thank you for clarifying. Meet in a Grand Slam final, making it epic finals, like you're saying. Right. And that was because of the ranking disparity, because Djokovic wasn't quite at the high enough ranking to avoid Nadal in the semi. But still, it's crazy that we didn't see that. Now, we saw Cincinnati, right? We saw Federer, Djokovic, and we saw some other big 4 matchups in some of those Masters events. But by far, in a way, it was either the young guns in the Masters 1000s finalists or the over 30 non-big 4 that each of the big 4 had to defeat. So I want a prediction. Will we have a Grand Slam final between two members of the Big Four? What do you think?
This year, I think he will. Yep, because like you said, with Joke coming back, I think that one disparity will be out of the way, and so they'll be off the bracket a lot. And so I think he's in the bridge. Like you said, assuming the ball gets there. But I think there's a better chance this year than there was last year because they're all bunched back up at the top. Whereas in the recent past, it's been a little more spread out with injuries and people sitting out for tournaments, taking the ball down. So that's my thought.
Yeah. Hey, what's that sound in the background? You're fine.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, my bad.
Do you just want to repeat that? Sorry, I couldn't really hear you. I should have cut you.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the question was.
We were talking about are we going to have a Grand Slam final between two members of the Big Four in 2019?
I would say I think there will be. You mentioned there was in the recent past there has been some point disparity. So Djokovic was coming back from an injury, so he was ranked a little bit lower. So they ended up meeting at different times in the tournaments. So I think the big three are bunched back up in the top of the rankings now. So they're on farther ends of the tournament. I think that'll get them up higher, farther into the tournament. So I think that you'll see more matchups possibly than at least a better chance this year than there was this past year.
I agree. 2017 only had one meeting. It was Federer beating Nadal in that epic 5-setter in the Aussie Open. One of my favorite matches these past couple years. That was at the beginning of the year. So really, it's been a couple years now almost that we've had two members of the Big Four in the Grand Slam final. And I agree with you. I think we will see one. I don't know if we're going to see more than one though, because like you're saying, the rankings allow for that, but that's with no upsets really. Like right now it'd be Djokovic and Nadal on opposite side of the draw. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see them in a bunch of Slam finals this year. I agree we might see one, but like I said, I think also we're going to see some more upsets. We're going to see young guns going further, making some Slam finals, and maybe an under 30 or over 30 guy winning it, like a Cilic. So
that's a good point.
I'm going to agree with you as well. I'll go fact. We'll see one, but I think the era of seeing these top guys being in every single Slam final together is gone. I think that era is past. Now, will the Big Four still be winning them? They're going to be favored every time they're in a final. So maybe we'll see. But yeah, that's I think this is the reality. And it's unfortunate because these are the epic matches that we love, but they're going to be fewer and farther in between. We're going to have to really savor them when they do occur. So to close, we want to just kind of talk about our favorite matches of the year and why. So I'll give you a minute. You can go first, and I can run through some of the matches that I thought were very epic. If you're going to look at highlights on YouTube, these are the ones you should probably look at.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, my go-to would be probably Rafa against Thiem in the U.S. Open quarterfinals.
Yep.
That was quite the match. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you didn't watch that match, then no words are going to explain how good it was.
Right.
So go watch it.
Tiebreaker in the fifth. Enough said, pretty much. Yeah.
Enough said.
Pretty much. Okay, so I'll go. So interesting. I pulled up ultimatetennisstatistics.com and pulled up 2018, what their greatest matches are. Now, their criteria is a little different than ours. It depends on the level of the tournament. So obviously finals will be weighted more than semis or below, as well as the players that you have in there and the rankings factor, a player's career rankings factor. And then also they have some formulas in there for the length of the match. So there are a lot of different variables, not necessarily all our favorite ones, but the best match that they had for this year was the 2018 Australian Open final between Roger Federer and Marin Cilic. And I got to agree that is probably one of the best matches of the year. Federer was able to win that in 5 sets, but it was not easy. Cilic showed why I'm so bullish, using stock terms, on Cilic in 2019 and these Cilic and Dopo, because he was able to, even though he lost the first set 6-2, he bounced back, won a tiebreaker. He did not play conservative. He hit some big winners. I was just actually watching YouTube highlights of this recently. That's a good match right there. So they have that one as the best match. Second best match, they had Wimbledon Djokovic beating Nadal in the semis, and he had to come back. That I remember waking up and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're playing. Turn on the TV and Nadal was serving forward, about to win, and Djokovic came back and saved it. That's an amazing match right there as well. I think that kind of altered the year because maybe Nadal would have won Wimbledon. Djokovic didn't return to number one. I think if you want to match the determined kind of rankings of the year, that has a lot in the balance. I don't agree with their number 3 match. They had Djokovic versus Delpo in the US Open final. I liked the match. I didn't think it was anything special. It was a 3-setter.
Yeah, it was.
Even though Delpo had the momentum in the second set, the crowd was into it. He still lost that tiebreaker. So I'm not going to go with that one, but maybe because Delpo, if he had won that match, it would have had some pretty big repercussions on his rankings and things. It's funny they had the Nadal team match, but the wrong Nadal team match for number 4. They had the Roland Garros final instead of the US Open quarterfinal. Again, maybe they weighting the finals heavier and had team 1 would have had big repercussions. But again, that was just very straightforward 3-setter. So I'm going to skip down. They have some of these straight sets because they were finals. Nadal Del Potro, 5-setter at Wimbledon where Nadal barely won. There were some amazing acrobatic points there. It's a highlight reel in and of itself. Yeah, we already mentioned. Yeah, we already mentioned the Nadal team match, like you said, at US Open. That's an amazing match right there.
Can I just go back to that match?
Yeah, go back to that match.
Nadal got bageled in the first set.
Yes.
If you're sitting here listening to this and you're thinking, I didn't watch it, but I'm not that interested in it, he got bageled in the first set, and he still comes back and wins it. That's what I'm talking about, consistency. That's what I'm talking about, mental toughness with these big 4. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, exactly. The commentators were like, has Nadal ever been bageled before? They were checking all the sets. Like, is Nadal going to mentally be able to come back? Like, he is just not just beating, but destroying. But like you said, they're the big 4, you know? It's a Grand Slam quarterfinal. He's not going to go down without a fight. The team had his chances, to be sure.
Absolutely.
But he missed an overhead in the 5th set tiebreaker, and there you go. You know, that's the game and match.
Spoiler alert.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Spoiler. And then it has the great match, not my favorite match, but the great match of Anderson beating Federer, being 2-0 down on the grass to be Federer. And this is, again, why I think it's a little bit harder to be dominant in Wimbledon, like to your point, than being dominant at the French, because even though Federer was humming along beautifully, 2-0, got this, Wimbledon on grass, if you're serving and you just get in that momentum and you're hard to break, you can come back from 2-0 down. Not saying it's easy, but it's definitely doable. On the French, with the margins and with the more breaks, you don't see that very often. But on grass, Federer, it's happened to him twice now at Wimbledon. Once with Tsonga, 2011. Now, here with Anderson. It also happened at the US Open against Djokovic, but I think that was just some tight sets that went Federer's way early, and then Djokovic turned it around. But I mean, Federer's now lost, like I said, Anderson and Tsonga. These are not necessarily world-class players. They're great, but they are not your Djokovic and Nadals. And they were able to do this to Federer on grass. Just goes to show it's hard. The game can get away from you. The points are short. If your serve's working and you get the attacking game going, you know, upsets can happen, right? So I think that was a good reminder to us, even though it was a terrible match as a Federer fan. It shows what grass court tennis can be if you go all attack mode. The next match they have is Wimbledon, Anderson versus Isner. I think that's rightfully said, even though it went a little bit ridiculously long in the 5th set. But now, not anymore. It's going to go 12-12 will be a tiebreaker at 12-all if that happens again. Yeah. And then I even heard Australian Open is considering a 5th set tiebreaker, but a 10-point tiebreaker. Sorry, this is a little side note. So now then, if that was approved, I don't think it's going to be approved for this year, but maybe next year, every single Grand Slam will have a different criteria for winning in the 5th set.
Oh, that's unique. That's
fun. So Australian Open will have a 10-point tiebreaker in the 5th. French Open still has nothing. They feel like they're the last to adapt. They still don't have a roof on their courts. They're still going to go 5th set, win by 2. But of course, French doesn't matter as much because you have more breaks. So I'm more on board with that. Wimbledon, now a tiebreaker at 12-all, so kind of in between. And then the US Open, traditional tiebreaker in the 5th set. What's up? So, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. We'll see if Australian Open does that. I think they will, because this game has become so physical. Players need to have that tiebreaker, and it's better for the fans. I think we've already talked about that before. But
Well, these people serve so hard and so fast. And when you get to a point when these huge long sets that it's like, we're not watching anything but serving practice. These people are all tired.
Pretty much. And then I'll end with my personal favorite non-Grand Slam match of the year. Djokovic defeating Federer at the Cincinnati, or no, not Cincinnati. That was a blowout. Paris Masters. That match was insane. Federer saved like 10 or 11 break points. He never got broken, but still lost the match. This is a good match. Okay. You want to see some good net play. You want to see some good defense from Djokovic. This match had it all. People have even said, the commentators are even saying this was one of the best matches that they've ever played on 3 sets. And it was the longest 3-set match they've ever played in terms of length of time, in terms of hours. Highlights. This is a great match right here. Again, Federer lost it, but it was vintage Fed and it was vintage Djokovic. So I'll just end with that. 2018 had some fantastic tennis, and we hope for a fantastic 2019. And hopefully we'll get to see it mixed up in terms of who's winning these tournaments. We'll see some new slam winners, some over 30 winners, or maybe some young guns winning. We will see. But these are our predictions. And until next time, we'll see you on the court.